Okay, Brian, you can go ahead.
Okay, thanks, James. So I want to welcome everybody to the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for Thursday, August the 27th, 2026. Um, we begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples. Do we have any additions or deletions to be made for the agenda?
So there's going to be one deletion. The item about plaques we're going to defer to next month because unfortunately Adrian wasn't able to make it today.
Right, okay. So if there's no other additions or changes, I guess we need a motion to approve the agenda. Holly, thank you. And all in favor? Okay, done. Uh, Minutes from the previous meeting of July the 30th. Were there any questions, comments, changes, misspellings? All of the above, none of the above? Lorraine?
I thought they were fine. I didn't see any errors at all.
Okay. Andrew? Your hand was up, so I thought you had a comment.
Sorry, must have leaned on the keyboard.
Ah, okay. So
It's a rare case where I don't.
what was that? Okay, so I guess we need a motion to approve the minutes then. Lorraine, thank you. And all in favor? Done. Do you have any declarations of interest for today's meeting? And seeing none, I guess we can move on. Business at hand, item 7.1, 7 Canal Street. We have an application for alterations to the premises. So I guess Theodore and Glenn, take it away.
Hello. Yeah, so the current proposal is modifying the second story that's there to be more functional. So we're going to be matching the front wall to make it appear like a dormer. And then at the back, we're going to be carrying that through as well. There's going to be 3 bedrooms upstairs, as well as a bathroom. On the front face that's against the street, we have the front dormer stepped in on either side to make it sort of less pronounced and fit in a bit nicer. On the main floor, we're going to be keeping the existing horizontal siding, and then upstairs, we're going to be putting a cedar shake siding to kind of fit the character of the neighborhood. We're going to be matching the existing Pica roof as well. So that slope on the dormer there isn't going to exceed what's already there. So the house isn't growing any taller than what's there. We're just adding more functional space. So, yeah.
Um, do we have questions about the proposal or comments about it? Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'd like to see what other dormers have been approved just like that. Do we have any reference?
Yeah, so we've approved a few in the past. The first one that comes to mind is 123, I think it was 123 Main Street. I can see if I can pull that up.
Was the dormer that close to the front, the first floor facade?
I'll have to double check that.
If it was set back, it would be more in line with other properties. That's what I want to see. Thanks.
Just bear with me for a second.
Yeah, because it seems to me that the previous committees were sort of reluctant to always approve dormers. but we have we have done them in past. There was that one house on Main Street, I think, where we approved a dormer, so it broke up the big ceiling area or roof
Mhm.
area.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the, unfortunately, Street View hasn't updated, I don't think, for that project. Oh, it has. Great. Okay, I will show that. Okay, you should be able to see that. So this here was approved just a few years ago. It's actually 132, not 123 Main, 132 Main Street. And you can see previously, similar style house, actually. Turn it so we can see. Fortunately, there's a lot of vegetation, but let me find a year that works. There we go. Similar style house, similar idea. They were looking to add additional second floor space, and we ended up approving this here, which allowed for it. And they also added a second floor addition as well.
Yeah, see I like the peak on that. I don't think we like if you look at the other side, if that was on the face, the neighboring property, 130, oh, to the right anyway.
Yep,
If
130 here.
that driveway side was on the front, I'm not sure if we would have approved that, but I think it's the gable that makes it look more in line with the rest of the area,
Hmm.
right?
I'll pull the plans up as well, so you can see those.
Yeah, and to me, if there's a dormer like that that's well done, to me it adds some character to the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Glenn, Theodore, do you have any thoughts on the comments that you've heard so far?
Yeah, so I'll just bring it back to the kind of matching that front facade of the dormer to the main facade. If we're to step that back, we'd lose a lot of functional space upstairs. We'd probably have to reduce it to 2 bedrooms. So that's kind of why we have it set up the way it is. And I kind of feel like that sort of bit of the main roof coming across the front breaks up the front facade. And then putting a sort of gable style dormer instead of the shed style, I guess would be possible, but we'd be increasing the height of the house where we're trying to keep it sort of where it stands currently. And I think one of the neighbors actually has a shed style dormer currently. I don't know if it was to the right or not. I can't exactly remember.
I'll pull that up for you.
Yeah, looking at it now in a magnified view, it doesn't really change the style of the existing house too much.
Mhm.
So I don't see a shed style, but I do see a number of different dormers that have been added to various houses on this side. So you can see this one here at 9 has a couple here that have been added. And then similar idea here at 15. I'm not sure if there's any across the street, but
This, 11 there. So that's kind of, I guess, would be similar if we were to do the gable. It looks kind of squatty the way they have, or sorry, what number? Oh,
is this one here is 11?
yeah, I think that one there. Yeah, because if we were to do a gable style dormer, we'd have to do a pretty low slope, which it wouldn't really match kind of the style of that other one that was approved because it's a much more narrow dormer. Yeah.
Plus, it's nice to break up that all the houses are the same.
Yeah.
For the streetscape.
Anybody else have some thoughts on that?
The only other thing that I thought with the windows in the proposed, like the view, to me they look a little bit um oversized, each of them for the front space. I mean, if they were slightly narrower,
That might be
maybe
it.
maybe that's just me.
No, it's that it's I see it too. Yeah. It's yeah, it's out of proportion. I find.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree.
They seem too big. You're right. Yeah, I think that might be the
Mhm.
main thing that's throwing me off, actually.
Reduce them in width. Yeah, we could reduce them in width, so then, because right now they would be 30-inch panels, we could reduce them to 24, so that would be a 48 by 54 window instead of 60 by 54. That would kind of narrow it down a foot on both windows.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel, better about it if they were a bit narrower, but you know, otherwise I don't have any major objection to what you're proposing to do.
I think both Rachel and Lorraine have their hands up.
'Cause I can't, I couldn't see them.
Yeah, that's why I'm letting you know.
Yeah. Well, okay, Lorraine.
Can I see the windows again on the 132 with a single dormer?
Yep.
Because I much prefer that look, but I see why they want the larger dormer. But I'm wondering if there's something that can sort of tame down that larger dormer.
Well, it's also, Lorraine, sorry, slightly a little bit different because I think on this project they're looking to add 2 bedrooms there, and so
Right.
having
Yeah.
one window wouldn't work for
Yeah.
them.
No, I just want to see the size. Yeah, I
Right,
get that. Yeah.
right. Okay, no problem. I will pull that up.
That's what I'm saying. I see why they had the larger one because they want to have the two, the extra bedroom. But I'm thinking maybe the size of the window. Okay. Hmm. So they seem to really match what's below, like those three windows on top match what's below. But the one that on your plan doesn't seem to match or look like it matches the bottom part on your plan.
Yeah, we were keeping in the existing windows. So the windows on the main floor are existing and the ones upstairs are new. And I mean, they were quite small on the main floor, so we were kind of hoping to get more light into those bedrooms, but and they also didn't match each other on the main floor. Like there's the picture window on the right, and then that double hung. I mean, we're somewhat similar to the style of that double hung that's currently down on the main floor. We've just gone wider. So I mean, would you be looking for it to be more similar in width, but still a double for the bedroom? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
What's the width of this window here, the first floor window? Do you know? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but just asking. I was looking at the dimension on here, and unfortunately, it's not on, so that's when.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Wow. Just give me a second. I gotta pull it up on the iPad here.
Yeah, no problem. It sounds like to me, and we'll let Rachel chime in as well, actually, for maybe first before I jump in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Rachel.
Oh, Rachel, you're muted, or your mic isn't working.
How about now?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. setting thing. I was frantically trying to just do a control F in the guidelines, but I'm just curious if they specifically say anything, if you happen to know offhand, about like window size in additions, because I sympathize that it would be difficult to create something similar when already the two existing windows don't seem to look anything like each other. So it's pretty difficult to find a sense of cohesion if even those two windows don't look alike. You know what I'm saying? So I was just curious if there was anything. I have the guideline. Finally found the guidelines and have them up, so I'm going to try to do a quick search in them. But I was just curious if there was anything in there about that, or if this was just the thoughts of the committee in terms of, you know, their initial thoughts in looking, or if there was any basis in the guidelines for that.
So it doesn't mention specifically any windows with regards to additions like this. Mostly talks about. Sorry, I'm just skimming as well. So it says design should be is compatible with mass, ratio of solids to voids, color, material, and character of the property, neighborhood, environment. So if it sounds like the guidance that the applicant's getting is that if the windows could be more in line with that first story window, even if they were paired, just so that, like in the same way that 132 Main has basically taken the first story window and kind of tripled that on the dormer there. It sounds like that's kind of the guidance that the committee is providing on this in this case. Does that sound about right?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I would say.
And Glenn and Theodore, how is that something that you think that works for you?
Yeah, so I just checked the dimensions. So that double hung on the main floor, measured on the inside, is 2'4" by 4 foot tall. So 28 by 48. So if we were to bring up that into both of the bedrooms and do it as two of those in each bedroom, would that be then kind of more towards what you guys would want then, and sort of copying what's on the main floor and bringing it up?
Mark, you've got a comment?
Yeah, I think if it was, I think it would look in line with like a more of the area. If it was more like a rectangle instead of just, if two of those windows at the bottom made a square, I don't think that would be the best look for it either.
So I think the idea, Mark, and just to clarify, is so taking this window here, taking the dimensions of that window, putting double of those up here. So
Not
it's two widths of no?
Two of those might still make a square, right? I think the square is, if we can put a like a rectangle window. It doesn't have to be the exact same size as this, right? Because if you look on the other side, you have a bit of a rectangle. There's a square window, but it has rectangles on either side. And I get that that's similar to up top. And I think so either we do like shorter width, like maybe a third, or at least 2/3 of that. Because I just drew it out on paper and it looked more normal to me with if I referred to other plans.
Theodore, what was the width again on the downstairs window there?
Yeah, the downstairs window it was 2'4" wide by 4 feet tall.
Okay. And up here you're looking at, it looks like 2.6, each window is 2.6 or 2.5 feet wide.
Yeah, there'd be 2'6" wide by
by 5.
Yeah, but I was kind of, yeah, at first it looked very, I wasn't too sure about the shed roof. When I've come to accept the shed roof, if the window sizes were not so squared. Just think of what Brian was saying too. I think it's the squareness is throwing me off. I don't know. It doesn't seem to look like a home in that area right now.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of the heritage homes in Port Duluth, if you look at, some of the traditional ones would have had like a taller, narrower window that would be like for, say, suitable for like a 6/6 type opening. And if something like along that lines in terms of, width and height was on that dormer, I think I'd be a lot happier with that.
Yeah, I guess we could work on something. Another thing I guess we'd have to keep in mind is our minimum glazing areas for the bedrooms. I'd have to double check that number, but I think with a smaller, narrower window, we should still meet our glazing requirement. So that's another reason why we went with the larger size initially, but I think we could make it narrower. Yeah. Like, yeah, would it be preferred if we matched then just bring up a single, like matching exactly what's existing and put one single in each bedroom?
So the idea there, just to clarify, is essentially mimicking this window here and bringing that up. So there's one on each side. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, would that be more as to what you guys are looking for if you're worried about it being too square with the double in each bedroom?
Rachel has her hand up.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, Rachel.
I'll help you out, Brian.
I wasn't going to address that comment, so I don't know if like Mark or someone else that wanted to address that comment wanted to go first, and then I can wait. Up to you, Brian. Like I can talk about what I was going to talk about.
Well, I mean, if you got comments, I mean, feel free.
Okay, all I was going to say, I think for me anyway, because maybe it's just me and my tiny visual, I have a hard time sometimes with visuals, is the shutters are also throwing me off because the bottom doesn't have shutters and the rendering does, and I think that's making it difficult for me to conceptualize the entire thing. Like there is like they provide a bit of a contrast and it makes it hard to gauge like the size of the windows, but that could just be a me thing, but the shutters are taking me right out because they are kind of adding to it. That was just my only comment. I'm not saying that the shutter shouldn't be there. I'm just saying it's making it difficult for me to gauge like window size.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to look different if they mimic the first floor windows in that dormer with shutters on it. I mean, I think it's going to make a nice appearance for that dormer.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the shutters. It's just for me, it's like it's making it difficult to maybe weigh in on window size or window opening. That was my only comment.
Right.
Lorraine has her hand up.
Yeah. Sorry, Lorraine.
You seem to, you seem like you were seeking kind of sort of a final word. To me, the essence is that the windows have to match more like 132 because that's the look that you see typically, I think, in Portaluzzi. And so they have to be in conjunction. So whether the bottom window becomes more like the top window or the top window becomes more like the bottom window, that doesn't really bother me, but it's that has to have that congruency because otherwise it looks like just an add-on that you've stuck on there, like as far as a building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
So unless there are other questions or comments,
And
Go ahead, Brian. You.
I was just going to say, and in terms of maybe making the house look more, cohesive as a whole, maybe you might want to think about putting shutters on that bottom window as well, the one that we're talking about mimicking into the dormer. So you'd have shutters up top and one set of shutters on the on that lower window, and that might kind of tie everything together. Yep, Mark.
Yeah, another reason why it might be throwing everybody off. It's like, yeah, the top and bottom just don't seem to jive at all. It doesn't look like one cohesive home, right? And another thing is, I know shutters are standard sometimes across the board, but I know you can make shutters. Like those shutters just, I think what's throwing people off too, including myself, is that the shutters are so small. If you were to use those shutters, it would cover, a quarter, half of each window, right? It might be the shutters. It doesn't make sense for us. Like I'm going to call them square windows because they're close enough. But I do agree with Lorraine too. We can make it at least look more like 132 style of window. So there's just something about this
I think my take on the shutters, and Theodore, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's more of an aesthetic look rather than something that'd be functional, if I'm not mistaken. Theodore, you can correct me if I'm wrong though.
Yeah, right now they're shown as just kind of an aesthetic feature. If you'd like, if I have permission to share my screen, I could put up the 3D.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to grant you permission for it, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Is there something in particular that you want me to highlight maybe on the drawings or anything, or?
Well, no, it was just, we had quickly updated the 3D views. I now have the single windows. I'm not
Oh,
sure
okay.
if I export an image and email it to you, would you be able to share
Yeah,
that?
if you want to quickly send it over to me,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
think
I can put it up
yeah.
on the screen.
One with the shutters on there, or three. One with the shutter matching the bottom, and then one with no shutters. What do you want to export this?
And I'll save as image. That's what I mean.
And I think,
Rachel, do you still have a comment?
Very minor. I just wanted to point out that the property next door with the dormers and the property on Main, all the windows have shutters that are facing the street. So it's just a more cohesive appearance, in my opinion.
Right. Okay, thanks.
That's it.
so Theodore, just let me know when you've sent it over and I'll try to refresh my email to get it as quickly as possible. Even if you can take a screen cap of it and throw it in an email, that would work.
Sorry about that. I was just taking a second to drag into the email. It should be sent over.
Okay.
That's a draft.
It's in,
Look in the draft.
should be sent.
No, that's a draft.
Yeah. No, I think I connected it. Is it not with the image?
Okay. So here is one of the images that was provided.
Yeah, so that one, we're matching the main floor, and there's no shutters added to the main floor, it's staying existing. And then the other image, we have it shown with shutters on the main floor as well.
Okay, I will pull that one up.
Yeah, to me, that's looking a lot more balanced and aesthetically pleasing to my eye.
If I may, same with me. I mean, besides not a gable roof in line with the same height, this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't just look like someone's, I don't know, someone's garage now.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer looking this way.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this from the committee? Dr. Bergen?
Oh,
You're
David, you're muted.
I agree. I think it just looks a whole lot better. Great idea, Brian.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
all designed by committee.
I've put together a motion for the committee to consider. So that the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee recommends conditional approval of the proposed alterations to 7 Canal Street with changes to the height and width of the windows. Sorry, I typed it up very quickly behind the scenes. Of the windows on the second story dormer to make them more in line with the single first story window. Does that reflect everybody's? I know the language might be a little choppy, but
It sounds okay to me. What say the rest of the committee? Any thoughts? Mark?
Yeah, if it's in line with their drawing that they just presented, yeah, that would be. I'm okay with that.
Mark, do you want to make that motion then?
Sure.
No, all in favor? Yeah, looks like that's done.
All right, thanks, Theodore. I know, Glenn, you're up next, but I'll get in touch with you, Theodore, about next steps tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to spin the computer for them.
Okay, so moving on to item 7.2, 122 Deluzzi. We're revisiting the design proposal that was presented last month. So take it away.
Okay. So, what we've done is we looked at your advice about the 4-foot jog. And so we're having issues with our layout with that. You're okay with the roof line being higher, but you didn't like it. So we tried to do a little give and take. Is we dropped the main roof of the addition down to match the existing height now. And we jogged it back just a foot instead of the 4 feet that was originally asked for. And the main reason was if we go back 4 feet, it totally destroys the layout that she was looking for within that space. So we're hoping for a little bit of a compromise if you guys would accept the 1 foot back, and then by dropping the height, bringing some more, less height into it. And that's kind of what we've changed. And of course, leaving the existing windows to max out the rough opening size of what the existing windows were.
So here's in case, I'm not sure if everybody can see this really well, but here's the 1 foot setback from the front facade for the addition. And then on the drawings, you can see that the side addition now is in line with the peak of the roof, whereas previously it was, sorry, it was about 2 feet higher previously. So they've come into conformance for this guideline, but the reason that we brought them back is because the guidance from the committee previously was that they were looking for a 4-foot setback on this side addition here. As described by Glenn, their layout makes it so that they feel that they can only go back about a foot. So. Brian, are you there?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. Just wanted to make sure.
Is that 1 foot setback sufficient for differentiating the existing heritage building with the new construction?
And we also did a change in material on there to help delineate it much differently too.
Right. Do the other committee members have questions or comments about this? No, not see. Oh, Mark.
Just one quick one. There was a question. I think that was a foot and not so. Just by looking at it, just first glance here.
Sorry, what was your question, Mark? Is it a foot? Is that what you're asking?
No, someone asked, is it enough? And to differentiate, and I'm not too sure if it is yet. That's all. And I did look at the drawing when we got it, and again today, and I'm just not too sure yet on that.
I mean that setback and the new material, I guess, under the windows. I mean, that does help differentiate a little bit, but again, that was my question. Is that foot, quite enough to do the trick?
Andrew has his hand up.
Sorry, Andrew.
To me, yeah, 1 foot isn't enough. It doesn't adequately meet what I think we should adhere to. I think 4 feet is already a bit of a compromise on the guidelines. On this particular application, we compromised on a number of other sticking points we could have looked at. We tried to be reasonable and let those go, and we asked for a modest 4 foot setback. And personally, I for all the reasons that were discussed last time, there's no point repeating them all. And I would stick with 4 feet. So I wouldn't. I'm not going to vote to approve this. But that's it.
Would there be a compromise amount between 1 foot and 4 feet that you'd be happy with, Andrew? Or are you going to insist on 4 feet?
3 foot 11 inches and 7/8. I could probably be swayed to 4 feet already is a compromise. I mean, 4 feet is a compromise. 4 feet is a midpoint to me, just my opinion.
Lorraine.
And just to say the other thing is just be prepared if you, part of the reason for approving the 4 feet was because it had been approved, the precedent is set by approving it somewhere else. We approve 1 foot here, then let's just recognize that Edward's just saying to every single applicant that comes in, 1 foot is enough. Hey, forget the guidelines, we're gonna approve 1 foot. We're setting a precedent that we're gonna have to live with. And I don't wanna endorse that precedent.
Lorraine?
I was going to say something similar to Andrew. Is that a precedent we really want to set? For me, 1 foot is not enough. Doesn't really qualify as a compromise to me. I appreciate the roof changing because I thought that was odd too. But no, I don't think that sets it back enough personally.
Okay. Thanks, Lorraine. Any other comments by the committee? No? Okay. I guess.
Glenn, do you have any comments just on what you've heard so far?
So just the one thing about precedents is my understanding is that you guys actually don't work under precedents, so this wouldn't force your hand on anything. I was always told that you guys look at these at one-offs, everyone's individual. And because I've asked that question before. So I don't think you're actually throwing yourself under the bus with this. And to one of the things that Andrew said, that you're lenient on the other stuff, we actually went back and changed that other stuff to what we wanted. We made sure we took off the front windows to be the existing size and dropped the height down. So that's why we're hoping for a little bit of give and take with the changing materials, the smaller setback. It's the layout that the client really wants. Yeah, can you make it work with the 4-foot layout? That's not what they're hoping to do. It'll totally change the concept that they were going for and they're looking at. So that's the direction we're going for. We're not trying to push heritage in a direction that would be something you don't want ever happening. But, you know, is it 1 foot? Is it 8 feet? Is it 4 feet? There is a definitely jog in the wall. There's a change in the materials. They could do a color change, but that I like the colors matching. It would be more harsh that way. But there is definitely, when you see a jog, and I know it's not a big jog, it is still a change at the front of the house.
Also, to speak up, I'm Steve from Practical General Contracting. I'm the contractor that'll be working on the project. By changing the layout of the main floor plan, that takes that renovation and addition from just doing a main floor to now we're rearranging both basement and second floor staircases to be able to accommodate for that. So it completely, entirely changes the price point, which makes that house possibly not a renovation project that they want to sink that much money into. So we're trying to give and take a little bit to come to some sort of conclusion that we can make this work, obviously, in the best interest of the Heritage Council, but also the client.
So I'll just jump in because Glenn mentioned sorry, was there anything else on your end, Glenn? I didn't mean, I can't, it's hard to see and very small.
Yeah, so we really try to be in keeping with the Heritage District. So our whole focus from the beginning was to keep the house as historic as we could. We just have a lot of constraints in terms of our needs and in terms of the existing house, which, as you know, is a 1.5 story, not an ideal layout. We have knee walls where a lot of our upstairs space has to be closets because it's not tall enough for anyone to stand. And we have worked, diligently to try every option that would give us what we need, which is minimal space on the main floor for the principal rooms and for a potential bedroom if we have to live on the main floor. The alternative would be to scrap this and build out the back, which then interferes with the green corridor. So neither of our neighbors have done that. So then we would have this big addition on the back, and we would end up with a house that we're not particularly happy with. And I would also say that you can't tell from the drawings, but there's a row of trees that are going to cover the side of that addition, and we're going to leave those trees there to the extent that we can. And we're also planning on planting in front of that addition. So we don't want the addition to be the focal point. We live in an area of Port that, yes, Port is a historic district, but across the street, we look at a 3-story apartment building. The neighbor on one side of us has a brand new build. So I don't think we're out of character with our neighborhood by having, and we only have just over 11 feet to build out on that side. So it's not like we have a lot of space where we could push it back 4 feet and then keep building out the side, because we're just constrained no matter how you look at it. So we've done our best.
So just to, sorry, I was just going to jump in, Brian, for a sec. So Glenn mentioned, precedent and whatnot, and Glenn's correct. We don't. So we want to be consistent. There's a difference between consistency and precedent, right? And so the goal is really to try to be as consistent as possible, because the next person who comes forward wants to be treated the same as this applicant. But every property is different and has its own different issues and whatnot. So that's why it's hard to say that precedent is everything has to be definitive because of precedent, because every property is different, right? And so, but as a committee, this committee I think has always tried to be consistent where it can be, and try to uphold certain kind of measures based on what they've done previously. So I think that's where this stance is coming from, Glenn and the owners. So hopefully that explains.
Thanks, James.
106 has a 1 foot setback. I think we talked about that last time. We're talking about consistency, right?
It was hard to hear what address you said there. I'm sorry.
Isn't it 106 that has the 1 foot setback? It was a renovation and addition. I believe we looked at it last time and we said that we can't be bound by previous mistakes.
I'm just pulling it up. Sorry.
And it's not the only one. I think it's 147. I think it's saying there's other ones in Port. Ideally, it would be a 4 foot setback. As we say, we are very constrained.
So I would have to go back and look to see. So that application, at least 5 or 6 years old, and the reason why I'm not sure if that was a demolition and a new build. There are different rules for new buildings. In 2020, 2016, there is like a very different building there previously, and I can show. It looks like they've taken the same motifs. I'm just not. I don't know if, because I wasn't around for this application, I don't know if it's a demolition and rebuild, or this is what it looked like in 2016, and then this is what it looks like now. And so
that I believe was a demolition in part, because they ended up doing something with the house that I don't think the Heritage Committee had actually totally approved.
So that would be the difference. There are different guidelines for new buildings versus additions. New buildings, there's a little more flexibility in terms of what these setbacks are as it relates to garages. And so that to me would be the difference. I'd have to go do some digging to find out, what actually happened with that application. But that would be the difference there. If this was a new build, it would have different guidelines that it would be focusing on.
Andrew, did you have your hand up earlier? I thought it was raised.
It was, but I said my piece.
Oh, I thought it was up after that. Okay.
Oh, it was, but it got addressed, so there was another little thing, but thank you.
Oh, okay.
So I was able to quickly look it up, and it looks like that was a new build at 106 Dalhousie, at least based on the minutes from 2019.
Yeah, and I seem to recall that there was also a little bit of a stink about that one, because I think the new build was not quite what the Heritage Committee had approved. They did a few things with the facade of the house that we hadn't approved. We didn't quite like it, but they went ahead and did it anyway. I remember Ed Smith, I think, was on the committee at the time, and he was a little bit upset about it too.
Yeah, I would have to do more digging into that. I wouldn't want to use that right here as definitive as to what happened there, because I just don't know enough about that application because it's about 8 years old now. So I'd have to do some more digging into that.
Ultimately, I think what we're looking to do is obviously comply to a point where everybody's acceptance is a give and take, where we can get to a point where we keep the Heritage Council happy, however, are not kiboshing this entire project due to an extra 3 foot that no longer gets the client what they're looking for in an addition to their home. So whether that be a 1 foot setback or if there's a compromise somewhere, we're ready to compromise, and we have compromised in the windows and both the roof line as well. And hoping that maybe if we give a couple of items, maybe you can give us a compromise somewhere between the 4 foot and the 1 foot, so that we can all be happy and we can make this sort of project move forward in a way that allows you guys as a council to achieve what you're looking to achieve, but as well as us achieving what we're looking to achieve.
I would just add that on the roof line, so this is an additional expense for us, dropping that roof line, because now we have a very flattish roof, so we're going to have to invest more money in that roof now. So it is, it is a compromise for us to have to spend additional funds to do that.
Mark?
Yeah. In the past month since the last meeting, have there been any attempts at just a sketch to comply with what was addressed last meeting?
Without tearing down trees that are on the property. We're trying to keep as much of the green space as possible as well. Trying to keep some of the large old trees around the yard. We're trying to make it work for everybody.
Don't know.
Do you have any photos of the trees? I mean, what kind of trees are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm
So
just
right
pulling it up
behind
right now.
Right behind the garage, there's a huge tree that we, an evergreen tree. So if we push the garage back, we'd have to get rid of that tree.
Is this the tree here that you're talking about?
Behind
No,
behind the
behind
shed.
Behind
Okay.
the
This one up here that you can kind of see back here a bit?
It's huge, but
Can
it's
you
behind
go a
the
little
tree.
bit more to the east maybe and then tilt that?
It's
Oh, there it is. You can see it there. It's
Yeah.
considerably bigger now.
Yeah, it's big.
much
It's bigger now. That's the old house, right? That's that house was torn down years ago. The one that you're looking at with the green.
Yeah, this is a 2014 image, yes.
Yeah. So that's a brand new build to the side house now, and that tree has become huge behind us there. So if we built the garage too far back, we'd have to take that tree out.
Here, I'll show what it looks like on an aerial. Just 1 second. I'm not sure where that option went to.
Top right, I think.
No, it's not giving it to me. That's odd.
But aren't we talking about the other side of the house going back 4 feet?
We wanted to rearrange the plan. If we could build it behind the garage, we'd have to take the tree out, right? So we don't want to do that. But we could, and we plan to leave the trees on the side, beside the addition. Those are big trees as well. We could try to leave those trees, and we could even plant trees in front of the addition. Like we're not trying to take away from the main house, right? We want the main house to be the focal point, right? Which is why we didn't put a dormer on the addition. It's why we tried to make the addition disappear as much as we could. Because if we put a dormer on, like we don't even have a second floor on top of that addition at the front side because we're trying to make it look, diminish it relative to the main house. But it's not ideal from an interior space point of view.
So I've thrown up an aerial. I'm not sure this is helpful though. You can see the large tree here. I believe is the one that
No, on the right as well.
over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also there's that our neighbor has a big garage in the back, but before you get to his garage, there is a green corridor. And if we have to go at the back, we basically ruin that green corridor for both sides of our neighbor.
Andrew, hand up.
The need to remove the tree to accommodate the plan if we don't compromise assumes that the house has to get bigger. The house has been this size for a long time. It doesn't have to get bigger. You would like it to be bigger. And sometimes buying a house in the Heritage District means you can't do everything you'd like to do. And you know,
we didn't buy it in the district. It has become one. We didn't buy it in it, just for the record. It wasn't a choice we made. It was something that was imposed on us.
it was the house was imposed on you.
We didn't buy a house in a heritage district. We bought a house that later became a heritage district. It wasn't a heritage district when we bought it.
Sorry, you bought it. You're saying you've owned it since before the district was in place?
Yes. And I'm supportive of the heritage district, and that's why we live there, because we love it and we've done our best. It's just that we do need more space, and we need to be able to live on the main floor. We both work at home. We have a growing family, and we don't want to move.
The idea of something being imposed on you is something that based on some of the conversations that have been had at council level, I know there were councillors who will be sympathetic to that because they're wary of imposition on people. My counter argument to that would be that just because the Heritage District doesn't exist yet doesn't mean the heritage doesn't exist yet. The district comes into play when people recognize what is already there. The truth of the heritage value exists before it's put into a bylaw. And so it got recognized, but it existed prior to that.
I'm just saying, I didn't choose a house in Heritage District. If I did, I would have gone into it with my eyes open, and I agree with you. I just didn't go into it with my eyes open because it wasn't the case. That's all I'm saying.
I understand it. I'm very sympathetic to your situation, and I've not enjoyed this conversation or the last one. I don't like to put anyone in this situation, but I just, I just feel that our responsibility, what we've been entrusted with, is interpreting the guidelines and making recommendations to council, and they make their decisions ultimately. And sometimes we have to make decisions that, they're not easy. It's never easy saying no to somebody, believe me. But I just feel like I take this role very seriously, and I just think that there has to be a line somewhere. And I'm making this my decision based on what I think my responsibility is. What's the job that's been entrusted to me as a committee member, and it's days like this that make me not enjoy the role. But I'm making this decision in good conscience, and I think you or people are trying to do something in good conscience. And I'm sorry that we've come down on opposite sides of it. I wish you well. I have to vote no. We'll see how the committee votes, and ultimately, if you go to council, we'll see how council votes. But I've got nothing else to say. I wish you well.
Thank you.
So I guess at this point we've got the options of either voting on a motion and seeing how it goes, and maybe it's going to be defeated, or should this once again be deferred for a revised set of plans?
So those would be, yes, so those would be the two options. Essentially, the first vote would be to recommend approval of the addition and alteration as proposed today. And then if that were not to pass, you could go back to the motion that had been passed at the previous meeting, where there was the condition that you're okay with the approval as long as there's a 4-foot setback. So, and then from there, staff would take it and work with the applicant. It would be up to the applicant whether or not they want to pursue that. If they aren't willing to pursue that, then staff would have to issue basically a denial of the application. And then the applicant has the ability to appeal to the OLT if they would like. Because that would be the path forward essentially. So yeah, we can start with the first motion though, if we'd like to recommend approval of the existing proposal that's before us today.
So does somebody wish to make that motion?
And I'll just remind everybody that making the motion does not mean that you approve it. It's just we do need somebody to make the motion.
And I've just lost sight of everybody when you brought the motion up on the screen. So
okay, I will close it again. Okay. Robert's put his hand.
So Robert, you're making the motion? Okay. And all in favor of the motion? Ooh, I'm not seeing any hands up. But I guess that didn't pass.
Okay, and then the second motion essentially is the same motion that was passed previously. The St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee recommends approval of the additional alterations to 122 Dalhousie Avenue, conditional upon the inclusion of a 4-foot setback for the proposed east side addition residential living space. And so this is the exact motion that was passed at the previous meeting.
Do we have to? I guess we have to vote on that again then.
Yep.
Okay, so does somebody wish to make that motion? Robert, you're doing that again? Okay. And all in favor of the second motion? Looks like that passed.
Okay, so thanks, Glenn. I'll give you a call tomorrow and we can talk about next steps.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Moving on to item 7.3, 33 Bayview. This is an application for a new residence. We have Jürgen here and Dana.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon to meet everybody again. Unfortunately, Carlos, our architect, was unable to attend today, so we'll have to wing this ourselves. So basically, our aim is to create a new home which incorporates building traditions of the past with the functionality requirements of today's family. We feel this can be achieved by using architectural elements historically found throughout Port Dalhousie. Our main focus will be with the use of shingle cladding, which again is found throughout Port Dalhousie, and we have sent in a number of photos of a few houses actually on Bayview Drive showing shake style cladding. Now with the shake style cladding, we will enhance that with substantial and traditional trim. Sorry, I'm a little nervous here.
You're among friends.
And we feel the use of the shake with the trim is a prominent feature of Dalhousie. So that's basically our goal in a nutshell. And yeah.
So Carlos Ochoa, our architect, we think did a really good job bringing in some of the elements of the original house.
Actually, so I believe Carlos also sent an email which has a comparison of yes,
yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, so just starting at the bottom, the bay window was on the original main floor of the home. So Carlos has put on the second story. The house had stone veneer on the main front porch, so we've repeated that in the new home. The porch columns, Carlos had noted that the columns on this house, they originally not, they were added in the 70s, so they weren't substantial like other homes in Port Dalhousie, so we've added more of a craftsman kind of cladding to them. Then the shake style is something that we've added because of the homes in the neighborhood. The wraparound roof, so we tried to match the style of the roof from the original home to the home that we're proposing. The window shutters, we've added window shutters to the upper floor on the one window. It isn't the bay window to replicate the original home. The corner trim we've added. The overhang depth of 12 inches is similar to the original, and the gable end roof and the sloped roof in the front are kind of repeating the original home. That picture is it's an AI picture. So the home on Elgin that you see the back of it is not really too, the front porch kind of goes up where the, what is that? The antenna, to the antenna, where the antenna is sort of where it is. Yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't really match up perfectly, but yeah. That one shows it a little bit better.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments about the proposal?
Who, ourselves?
No,
No, for the committee members.
The committee. Yep.
That's what I thought.
No, not seeing any hands up. Oh, Robert.
Yes, thank you. I recall this property when we last spoke about it a number of months ago, that there was a request to take down the original building because it was not salvageable. And I was told that the new build would be essentially identical to the old, and it doesn't seem to resemble in any way, other than some things that you've suggested are alike. And I just want to register that point that I did notice that. So it does not appear to me to be anything like the original. Thank you.
May we comment?
You may.
Certainly.
Yeah, so yeah, we thought long and hard about that, and we felt, what's that, honey?
I guess it was our understanding that once the house was torn down, that home that we had proposed was then sort of, I can't remember the wording, but James had said it to us in an email that we were to start from scratch.
So I'll just maybe I just jump in and clarify. So they went to council to get approval for the demolition of the original house. They received that approval, and at the time they also came forward with that application for what the replacement house would look like. And the committee and everybody was on board with that. We gave them a heritage permit for that once council gave the heritage permit for the demolition. They're not held to that though. Once the house is gone, they're able to build a new house as long as it's up to the guidelines, essentially. And so I did make the applicant aware that the committee will have questions about what happened to the original design, but they aren't held to that. So the decision today is based on the guidelines and what the new house, how those correspond to them, not what the previous house looked like. So just to clarify for everybody.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Lorraine.
My point was similar to Robert's. Can you go back to the diagram where they show similarities between what the old house was and the new house plan? To me, when I look at this carefully, it doesn't, I think you're grasping at straws, if I could say that in a polite, respectful way. The bay window in one spot isn't really equal to the bay window in the other spot. And the same as the roof. The sloped roof at the front is nowhere near the sloped roof at the other. So I think that, in my opinion, for what it's worth, that comparison is really inaccurate. Yes, you may have some of the same things, but not in the same place. It doesn't look anything like the old house. And certainly there's no way anybody would confuse the house that you're proposing for a heritage house.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, that was our architect who did those things for us. And I guess the point was we're not trying to copy the old house. We're just trying to be respectful of elements that are seen within Port Dalhousie. And to James's point about going under the guidelines of a new build. So from our understanding is we don't have to make it look like the old house, but we're trying to respect the elements that are in Port Dalhousie and try to create it within that new build.
I say to your architect, though, that this one is really misleading. In fact, it sort of puts me in a negative frame of mind because that's not a good comparison between those two houses.
Yeah.
So I think that diagram really is totally inaccurate.
Okay, I mean, I can't speak for Carlos and what he was thinking, but I think we're not trying to recreate that house. I guess at the end of the day, we don't mean to be misleading anybody. If we were misleading, it is obvious the pictures don't look alike. We're just saying there's some elements that we're trying to bring into the new build to make it look like it fits into the neighborhood. So that is our goal.
Okay.
And what is the like the size of the two houses like in terms of square footage and stuff? Is the new one it looks like it's larger than what the original house was.
No, they're actually, it's basically the same, it's almost the same, drawings.
Same footprint.
Yeah, same footprint.
Okay.
So I believe, Jurgen, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You went to the committee of adjustment, I think, for this property, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry?
Did you go to the committee of adjustment for this property? I can't remember if it was this one or the neighbor that you had to go to the committee of adjustment for.
We did go to.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it follows all the setbacks that we were approved through the committee of adjustment. And the actual footprint of this home is very similar to the old structure that was sitting there.
Andrew.
I agree with Lorraine about that sketch, and I think the thing I just say generally to people is, if you have 5 good points to make those 5 points. Don't add on 3 or 4 more, mediocre ones, because it doesn't look good. And that's not you. That maybe mention it to your architect, because it weakens the argument, the extras. But overall, I think this is I like the design. It's an attractive design. I don't see any big inconsistencies with the guidelines, and in particular, I think you can, if you look along Bayview there are a number of houses that have similar character. So I think this one will fit in well with the area in Port Dalhousie where it's going to be. So
Appreciate that.
it's always a shame when there is a demolition, but that's in the past now, and where we're at is, I think this is a good as a new build. This is a pretty good option.
Thank you.
Lorraine.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it, Andrew. It really weakened their argument. So you might tell the architect that. I remember when this house was approved for demolition, we had asked if any of the materials from inside the house could be from inside the old house could be used in the new house. So can you fill me in on that?
Unfortunately, as we had sent in pictures, like anything that was really salvageable, like the posts, they were totally rotten, and we couldn't use any of the posts. We tried, but it was just basically crumbling. And even the doors that were in the house, those a lot of those doors were not original. They were just doors from Home Depot, and they weren't the original. So there wasn't really anything salvageable at the end of the day once it came down. We would have loved to, been able to take a few of the old, beams out of there, but yeah, they were rotten.
Rachel.
Yeah, I was just curious about the garage, because I see that it's been included in the main building, but if memory serves, there was like a separate standalone garage. So was that also demolished? Like, I just maybe jog my memory, or I just appreciate a little bit of like context about why it's included and isn't separate the way it had been with the old building.
Yeah, there was a garage, but that was also part of the demolition. And now with this build in the narrower lot, there's just no way you could put a garage in behind. There's just no room.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Oh, I think I see, like, there's a house built on the smaller property. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Welcome.
Holly.
Hi. Hi, Jurgen. Tell Carlos he did a great job. Like the garage, great. I would like to put a motion in to approve this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's no other comments or questions, then I guess, and Holly's making the motion, so.
Yeah, it should be on the screen now that the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee recommends approval of the new residence at 33 Bayview Avenue.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, you have to get a vote first, so.
Yeah. So all in favor? And I think that's done.
Yeah, so Jürgen, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow and tomorrow or Monday about next steps and with your heritage permit.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for meeting with us.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Item 7.4, the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario. Is Kay here today with us?
I am here. I'm sorry I don't have a camera working today. I once again had technical difficulties, and I did 7 Zoom meetings since then, including one yesterday, and it worked fine. But anyway, I'm able to join you. I just can't show you my smiling face.
I know the feeling.
Well, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I do appreciate you including me on your agenda today.
Okay, so take it away. The floor is yours.
All right. Yes. So St. Catharines is one of several municipalities I've spoken to about the Architectural Conservancy Ontario's Heritage Helping Housing grant proposal. And I'm hoping that St. Catharines will join. I think it's at least 15 other municipalities who have passed a motion to write Premier Ford and Ministers Flack, Bethlen-Thavi, McGregor, and so on, encouraging inclusion of this grant program in the Ontario budget. So the next slide, please. We submitted this budget proposal last fall, actually, and then following that, ACO leadership was called to meet with the Ministry of Finance officials and then Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism, which is the ministry currently responsible for heritage conservation, which I'm sure you know. We've also met with Minister McGregor and so on, but it was staff at these ministries that suggested we gather support from municipalities for this motion. So that's why we're here today. So next slide, please. Yes. So when we did this proposal, it grown out of meetings. ACO has met with MPPs at Queen's Park for about 10 or 14 years now. And we're always trying to figure out what are the key concerns, and so how can we work heritage conservation into meeting those key concerns. And a Leger poll in May showed that inflation and the rising cost of living is still the #1 concern, but housing affordability is the other, and housing supply, of course, too. So next slide. So we realize that ACO really doesn't have tools to fight inflation, but we certainly can do something about increasing the supply of housing. Next slide. And we feel that there's a lot of heritage properties available that could help with this. There's over 9,000 individually designated properties designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and another 30,000 if you look at all the Part 5 Heritage Conservation District properties. Next slide, please. So we feel that this is actually a really good path to look at creating heritage, creating housing in heritage buildings is a really good path because we feel it can be faster and cheaper and certainly more sustainable than building new. And here's an example in Kitchener. I'm sure you have some in St. Catharines as well. This was a project done by Indwell to support, it took a former Lutheran church, which was certainly capable of being designated, and turned it into supportive housing for 44 people. So next slide, please. So these are some of the reasons we feel that this project makes sense. It can be faster because the zoning's already in place. People don't have to get zone change applications and so on. It can be more affordable because you don't have to go to the expense of demolishing an existing building and also paying for that material to be trucked to the ever-increasing landfills, which are certainly a problem here in Waterloo region. And also they're using existing materials, probably more durable materials than some of the newer ones that are available. And especially compelling these days, I think, is the argument that they will use more local labor, because that's what we found, that new construction typically spends 25 to 30% of its budget on labor, but adapt to free use projects can be as high as 60 or 70, even 75%. And those are local jobs that we're talking about. Next slide, please. So in 2014, the National Trust for Canada did a big research project on this and asked a number of heritage developers what it would take to increase the number of adaptive reuse projects, and particularly we're looking at housing here, but and the response that they got was that the biggest single thing that would help would be a grant, like a financial incentive, provided that the grant was simple to apply for and simple to administer, and that there was enough money in the fund that at least you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting accepted. So that's how we came up with this proposal. Next slide, please. And we based it on an existing program in Alberta. And when I say we based it on, it's not that they're funding housing so much, but just the administration and application of it. Just there's like a template that's out there. Why reinvent the wheel? But this grant proposal, it would encourage owners and developers to retain and renovate heritage buildings. It would pay 50% of the costs to building owners to create new housing units, and 50% would be paid on approval to address the cost of borrowing. Next slide, please. So what we're proposing for who could qualify this is it would be designated sites, and we feel that can be an incentive to some property owners to become designated, because especially if they're looking at creating new housing units, or could be creating it. So that would be the one criteria for it, that would have to create new housing. The matching grant, we're saying $100,000 per housing unit. And most importantly, I feel the proposed work must adhere to the federal standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada. And we definitely would like to see 50% of the approved funding provided at the start of construction and the remainder upon completion. Next slide, please. So here's just 3 examples of projects that could have benefited from this funding. This is a former Mitchell button factory in downtown Kitchener. And it has now been added onto with 44 supportive housing units. It is a designated building. Next slide, please. Here's another example, St. Mary's, and this is the kind of thing I think we feel could be particularly important. This is a heritage conservation district in St. Mary's, and certainly a lot of these upper floors of downtowns have not been turned into housing. They're often sitting still vacant, you know, and so we feel this would be a really popular kind of solution. But that's another example that could have worked. And the third example is the former Canada building in Windsor. It now has 2-bedroom condos on the upper floors. So all of these projects could have qualified for this grant and benefited. So you can see there's quite a lot of scope. Next slide. So we feel that this project is definitely worth promoting, and we think this grant would really help both the cause of heritage and the cause of housing. And the proposal that we're making is a grant program, be simple to administer. It would address the capital costs that small developers face, and it would reuse existing buildings, shortening the time to market, keep more skilled jobs in Ontario, and of course maintain community and pride, which is of course what you folks are so concerned about on the Heritage Committee. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and get your response.
Thanks, Kay. An interesting presentation.
Thank you. I hope you got the slides. I sent them. If not, I'll make sure that you got them, just because I know it's a lot to go through. And
yeah, I'll circulate the slides to everybody after this meeting.
Thank you.
Andrew.
I think that was a great presentation, a great idea. I think that you're hitting a lot of the points that aren't always emphasized when it comes to making the case for heritage, and so I appreciate that. One question that I have is the grants would be capped at 100,000 per unit. You said, but do you propose a project cap as well? Because I think one of your examples was a 44 unit project that would take up almost half the budget
I know.
for the province. So is there a per project cap on this?
I don't know. Like, I mean, we're setting this proposal out. We would like to get it in the budget, and we fully expect that if the province did put something in, like that civil servants, politicians would take a look at this and decide, yeah, maybe it does need a cap, because that's not a lot of money, or maybe they would decide we need more money put into this grant program. You know, I, it's a tough one. I know when we talked about it again, we thought, well, maybe we should come up with smaller examples. Personally, I would love to think that the government would think it's so important we need more money in this thing, because I mean, the two examples at least that they created of supportive housing are bigger projects. Yeah.
I'm guessing the budget would get used up fairly quickly, which is a good thing because that would mean a lot of units being created and a lot of properties being adapted.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
I think
and ultimately that was our thinking, that if we can get something to demonstrate that there is a huge demand for this and a huge likelihood of the money being used, that could be an incentive to put it in, as opposed to asking for a lot of money. And, I don't know.
yeah, I think 10 million is sort of the pilot project amount. If
Yeah.
you can prove that it works, then you can go back to them. The other thing I was going to say is you have examples that you said of projects that could have benefited from this fund. Just knowing some of the arguments that have been made in the past, you're going to hear people say, but they got built without the fund, so what's the problem? And I think what you need to emphasize more perhaps is that for every St. Mary's storefront that got converted, there's a whole bunch of them in St. Mary's and elsewhere that could be
Right.
converted and should be converted and so on. So just something to be a little bit cautious of in how you represent it. But overall, good job. Thank you.
No, those are really good points. And in fact, I think a lot of people in small towns would really welcome that. And some of the MPPs that asked us about this kind of thing when we met with them was the small towns. Those other projects, of course, had to get other funding from numerous sources.
Okay, Lorraine, I think your hand was up next.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, Kay. I met Kay at a recent conference that I attended, and she had a table set up with all sorts of people coming by, listening to her talk about the project and their proposal and signing. And then since we got together, you've had several other city councils support the plan that I've been reading about in the paper. So I thought it was something that we really needed to hear about. And I can think of, and I know you can too, people on our committee, that you can think of several buildings right now that are just that have been designated. And besides downtown St. Catharines, which already has grants that help that, but there's other buildings in St. Catharines that could really benefit from that. And so the two that I thought of right away was Merton High, which is a designated building and could be made into apartments. And then even the Lightning Fastener building that is sitting there for sale right now, that has a great history that we need to preserve. And so those are just two of the many that I know that we can think of. So I'd like to really propose that we approve of this and that we send our approval, our recommendation to council so that council can as well approve of it and send it to our province. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Lorraine. Rachel.
Thank you. I too agree that this is great. I really liked hearing your proposal, Kay. I just have a couple questions more, maybe for my own benefit, but I really liked that you had some statistics and information around costs, because I think that's something that developers are well, I don't know, I'm not a developer, but I think they're chiefly interested in that. So it was great to include that. I'm just curious where those stats came from, if you have like supplemental things you could maybe point out. I don't want to put you on the spot, but just if you happen to know where they were taken from, maybe that could be circulated after. I'd just be
Which
curious.
stats are you?
So the one about, I think it was on page 7. So like I think 16% reduction in costs or something like that. And then also about the labor, the other point about the labor. I was just curious about the sources for that.
Yeah, the labor one came from experience. I believe it was in a St. Thomas project a long time ago. And the adaptive reuse, I will look up the reference for that. I should have it at the top of mind, but I don't. But I will look up the reference for that.
I know I'm putting you on the spot. I don't mean this to be like, I don't want to grill you. I'm just very curious because I thought those stats were really interesting. And I think it goes against maybe some conventional thought that may be held that adaptive reuse is very expensive and working with heritage properties is expensive. So I thought that was a great way to maybe push back upon that. Like obviously I don't hold that thought, but I know it's something that I've heard expressed. So I thought including those stats were great and a good point. So thank you.
I will look those up and send them. I mean, we've always been really careful to document our stuff because when we meet with MPPs every year, it's all parties, and they're not always meeting with us because they think they want to give us an applause. Sometimes they just like to argue.
Yes. Well, yes. I think question period in a lot of houses of parliament would, bear that out. My other question, sorry, just a second one is, was there any thought given, or maybe will there be thoughts given if we expand the scope of this for an additional incentive for affordable housing?
I'm not sure about that. Again, it would depend where the government wants to go with this. That's certainly an interesting concept, but it can be it's a bit more complicated. I'm not sure if you have agencies like Indwell or other ones involved in your community, but they've done quite a few projects in Kitchener-Waterloo, and the funding for the ongoing support for the supportive housing is a really important part of keeping it affordable.
And I can maybe jump in there for you, Rachel. So the city we have our community improvement program. And so developers who are, it'll be renewed this year. A new plan was approved by council recently. And it was part of it was appealed to the OLT. So we're just waiting for that to get sorted out, and then it should be in place hopefully for next year. But it focuses a lot on affordable housing and developers who are providing that. And then there's a bonus component where you get bonus points that lead towards qualifying for the program if you're a heritage property. So that helps kind of incentivize heritage properties or heritage property owners and developers to retain their heritage buildings.
That's great. Thanks for that, James, and thanks for responding to my questions, Kay. I appreciate that.
Andrew?
Oh, you're muted, Andrew.
There's a great book called The Economics of Historic Preservation that's full of studies and statistics very similar to what are in the report about the financial benefits of preservation. So if you're looking for stats and studies, that's where I go.
So who's the author of that? It rings a bell.
Donovan, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Rypkema.
Oh yeah, I recommend. Yeah, that's the person we got the percent labor and stuff. He was one of the people, and yeah, we have. But thanks for the reminder.
It's a real go-to, and most of the studies are based in the U.S. But I think we can sort of look at the data as being fairly reliable, in my opinion.
Right. He's spoken at the National Trust Conference from time to time, and I just put in a little plug. The National Trust Conference is in Waterloo Region this year in October. So if you're interested, a lot of us got roped into the local planning committee. I think it's going to be a great conference, and it'd be great to meet some of you in person where I won't even need a camera.
But how do we find you? We won't recognize you.
Yeah, good point. I'll wear a very large name tag.
Okay. See you there.
Lorraine?
Lorraine, you're muted.
So say she'll be at the booth with the lineup of people waiting to sign her petition.
Okay, so
Well, I am planning to lead a walking tour about heritage buildings converted to housing. So that will be one way to find me. Yeah.
One building that I thought when you were doing your presentation that is kind of a neat example of, creating housing in a heritage building is, I think it was a Presbyterian church at the corner of College and Bathurst in Toronto. And, they kept the tower part of the facade of the church up, and that's been incorporated into some of the housing units behind. And I mean, it's really made some funky looking residential units in that building. James, I'm sure you probably know the building I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're speaking to. And there's a few others over near High Park that are church conversions into condos, and I imagine those would qualify for this type of program as well. And
Right.
really interesting adaptive reuse projects. That yeah, this type of incentive can definitely kind of help make those things happen.
Because I think there's a lot of people these days that probably are looking to move into, homes, apartments and things that have that heritage component and that field of, this is history we're living in, which is a good thing. Lorraine, another question?
No, I was just going to add there's a church conversion on the corner of Oakdale and Merritt that has been changed into condos. So we have it here in St. Catharines as well. So
Was that the old St. James?
yeah, Old St. James Anglican.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so any other questions or comments? If not, then I guess we need a motion to receive Kay's presentation.
Yeah, so I've created a motion behind the scenes. Essentially, what will happen is, so if the motion passes, I'll then write a small staff report that will go to council, basically endorsing, saying that the Heritage Committee has endorsed this idea and this plan that the ACO has put forward, and outlining that other municipalities have also backed it as well, and just recommending to council that they should also endorse the program as well. So I'll put that forward. I'm not sure which council meeting it would go to, but we try to get it onto a council agenda before the election happens.
Can I put the motion forward?
Sure. Let me put it up on the screen.
Okay. And I wonder, here's a question as well. I wonder if we reached out to our current city councillor to say that we're supportive, like as individuals. Would that be helpful as well? I've heard of people doing that before, Kay.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to answer about if you want to reach out. So any item that is on the council agenda, you're welcome to write in or provide your support or opposition to it. So when it does go to, assuming it passes here, when it goes to council, you can voice your kind of support for that as well there. Kay, I don't know if there's another avenue for people to be able to help out independently.
Well, quite often there are counselors. Sometimes there's counselors sitting on the Heritage Committee that bring it forward, but I mean, you will need a counselor to bring this forward ultimately, I think. And I certainly have other motions from other municipalities I'm happy to share with you. What I've seen happen in the other municipalities is that a counselor who's interested will draft it, bring forth a notice of motion, and then it gets voted on at the city meeting.
Yeah, in our case, because we don't have a counselor on our committee, so I'll be writing a staff report letting council know that this has been recommended from the committee, and obviously it's up to council whether or not they want to vote in favor of it or not. But staff essentially will bring it forward rather than a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So it works a little differently, but it'll still get to council.
Right, yeah. But I know people have been meeting with local MPPs too about this too. That's another thing if you feel that would be something you could help with. That's good.
Okay.
Andrew, I see your hand up. Not sure.
Sorry, just a bit of a technical thing. I didn't think of this at the beginning in terms of a conflict, but if this were to pass, I definitely would be try to be in the front of the line to put my grant application as. And should I be opting out of this vote for that reason?
Yeah, I think it would be if you feel like you should recuse yourself, then certainly. I don't know if you knew exactly what this item was going to be, so the fact you didn't bring it up at the beginning of the meeting, I think that's okay. It's understandable. So, yeah, if you want to recuse yourself, I think that's all right.
I think I will for that reason. Sorry.
Well, I appreciate your optimism that this will get passed.
We live in hope. We live in hope.
I'll just read it out for everybody, just in case you can't see it on your screen, that the St. Catharines Heritage Advisory Committee received the information from Kay Elgie at the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario, or of the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario, regarding a potential provincial grant program for the adaptive reuse of heritage buildings, and that the SCHAC recommends to Council that it should pass a motion of support for the ACO's initiative to ask the province to create a provincial grant program to help support the adaptive reuse of heritage buildings for housing. I think that kind of encapsulates everything. And Kay, I know that there's some additional kind of wording I think that other municipalities have included in their motions, and I'll make sure to look at those when the item goes to council. But I think this kind of provides the gist of I think what we're hoping to get out of this meeting.
Okay, so I think Lorraine, you said you wanted to make the motion. Oh, Robert, have you got a question?
No, just willing to make the motion as well.
Well, you're going to have to fight over it with Lorraine.
She was there.
Yeah, no, Lorraine originally made the motion, or said she wanted to make it. So all in favor? Yeah, and I think that is done.
All right. Thanks, Kay, for joining
thank
us.
you.
Sorry it took a little while, but yeah, thanks a lot for joining us.
And I'm happy to join you for the council meeting if you want as well. So
okay. Well, we'll talk about next steps. I now have a staff report to write, and I'll let you know when it'll actually go to council, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah. Some municipalities have asked for that. Others, it all depends. We're happy to support however we can.
Sounds good.
James, will you let us know when it goes to council as well?
Yeah, I will let everybody know.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kay.
You're welcome. It was nice to sit in your meeting. It's been very interesting going to a number of municipal heritage committee meetings. They're quite different from place to place. So it's been fun.
I wouldn't say this month and last months are representative of our typical meetings, but you got to attend some interesting ones. So thanks.
Definitely. Yeah.
So moving on to item 7.5, we're going to, I guess, defer that to next month. That's about the plaques.
Yeah, we were just Adrian and I have some ideas for what we're going to do starting next year, but unfortunately, Adrian wasn't able to make it today. He's just swamped with some things, and so we thought, it's not pressing, and so we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Right. We don't have any miscellaneous items, no updates from the subcommittees at this point.
Well, I don't know if there's miscellaneous items. People might have some things.
I'm seeing Lorraine's hand up and Dr. Bergen's hand up. Is this for miscellaneous?
Miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous.
Okay.
Lorraine, you're first.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Bergen. I was just going to say I sent to everyone that email. Sorry, it was so tardy. The idea that I wanted to share what Niagara Lake was doing in terms of celebrating heritage homes that were recently designated. I think maybe it's an idea to talk about in the future.
Right.
I just wanted to let you know that I did send that email and apologize for being so late.
Okay. Dr. Bergen.
So, Brian, I think in the previous committee, you and I met a couple of times to discuss the possibility of connecting what's built on a property with the demolition of the property, because once the property comes down, as we can see, it's the Wild West. I mean, we can still say no, but there's a real incentive to level buildings and then promise to do one thing, but then you can bait and switch. And so I have no point to make. It was interesting to me that I've been concerned about this. I've been on the Port Dalhousie committee for, I think it's my 5th term or something. And I've always hated the fact that when we pass a demolition permission to demolish and make that recommendation to the city, that then the landowner can do what they want to, more or less. I mean, there's still a few hoops to jump through, and we didn't come to a resolution, and I'm just bringing this up as a point of interest and history.
Yeah, that's right. It's been quite a while since we've had that discussion too. I mean, it was pre-COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's one of the, I don't know if you call it a flaw or it's one of the things with the heritage. It's a quirk, I guess you could say, of the Heritage Act, right? Where once a building's demolished, especially in a heritage district, you're starting fresh as if there's nothing there, unfortunately, right? So you kind of lose that little bit of history and with an application or with a property. And yeah, unfortunately, the way our guidelines are written, it suggests, anything new should be, follow a certain set of guidelines, and that they're not held to anything previously that had been approved. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way the Heritage Act works, or that's the way our guidelines work. So, but share that concern, David.
Holly.
This is just a quick miscellaneous comment. Also, too, sometimes when we designate a building and not for demolition, but then you see the building and it's just sitting empty, just a point going in and out of the cemetery on Queenston Street, the old cemetery office. It just seems to be sitting there, not being used. I'm just wondering, is anything being put into that building?
So I know for that building in particular, it's used. It might not be used actively, but the city owns the property, and it is used. Staff go in there and whatnot for it might be used temporarily when people are doing work at the cemetery. I don't think there's any long-term proposal for that property right now. And then I think you're speaking also to kind of other properties that have been worked on where people have come in with applications and made plans and proposals, and unfortunately they just don't come to fruition. And I think we're seeing a lot of that over the last 5 years in particular, just with the economy and kind of the access to funds and stuff like that. So people might have ideas about what they want to do, and they're waiting for the moment when they can actually get it done, because they might be at the whim of their bank account or a bank loan or something like that, right? So there's nothing. I mean, there are some communities that put they'll put kind of a timeline on how long your heritage permit is like until it expires. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years. We don't have that. I don't think we've ever had that. And I think at a time right now when a lot of people are struggling to get some of these things built, putting those timelines in, I don't know if it's helpful for us, because they might have they might need that time and space to be able to make a project happen. So yeah, it's not something that I've looked into previously, but I know some other communities have it. But I'm not sure it'd be useful for us here. But definitely, it can be curious. It's curious for me as well when I drive around and I see certain properties that we've had before our committee, and we have nothing's happening, right? You always wonder what's going on. So yeah, I share that, Holly, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe the Victoria Lawn building can be, part of what we just talked about with Kay, adaptive reuse. Get a few people living in there. Lorraine.
Just want to say something further to what Dr. Bergen said. The house that we looked at today is one of the examples that we've had as well in the last 5 years, where the owner buys the house and proposes to renovate or adapt it for their own needs, and then they come back to us with the demolition. And so I would add that to my concern that Dr. Bergen mentioned, when you buy a house and hopefully knowing the state that it's in, and then propose the demolition after, to come back with a house that doesn't match or look similar or really seem to meet anything. And I think that's what bothered me about the house today. We were looking at in that comparison. So just wanted to put that out there.
Dr. Bergen.
Well, just a final comment. I've said this before, but there are very few houses in Port Dalhousie that predecease, let's say 1900, that you couldn't make a really strong case for tearing down, and some have been beautifully restored. And but restoration is not for the faint of heart, and it's just interesting to me that people do buy properties and change their mind. Well, now we need to tear it down, and so we're caught in this situation on a regular basis, and I think it's worth knowing. So when a demolition comes up, just keep in the back of your mind that once it's taken down, you can build whatever you want to, which is kind of nice. Building a lot in a heritage district. Anyhow, that's it.
Rachel.
Thanks. I think Robert might have been first because he had put his hand up before, so I'll just let him go first.
Well,
no, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, Robert.
Yes, well, we're sort of on demolition. Another aspect of this that has always grated me the wrong way is we've given blessing to knocking down certain heritage structures that with the intent of doing something and something that's been blessed. And unfortunately, the first thing that the developer does is knock down the heritage building without a thought to knocking down anything else. My case in point is Gore's Place, for instance. I see that the developer that was putting up this 35-story tower immediately knocked down the heritage building, left the mid-60s, 70s building there. Now it's for sale. Nothing's been moved on. I'm wondering if there's any way to build any teeth into this whole process where they have to withhold knocking down the heritage building until they at least scratch the ground or do something.
Yeah, so Gord's Place in particular, and Brian, I don't know if you know the answer to. I don't believe it was a heritage property. I don't think it was listed or designated, and so they didn't have. Brian, do you know if it was?
It wasn't designated.
Yeah.
No, but they came to us for our approval.
Did they come to? It predates me, so I'm not sure. But if it was listed, then obviously they have to go to council to get approval to demolish, right? So, I don't know if they did that or not, but typically what would happen is on a development that would involve a heritage property is you would line up those ducts properly, right, to make sure that you don't lose. Typically, what happens actually is buildings will be altered, or a portion of it will be removed. And there's a good example in downtown Hamilton of a church, kind of near the GO station. I think it's on James Street. Where they removed part of the church to prepare for a potential development. And unfortunately, the development just never happened. And so it's been sitting, partially demolished for the last few decades. And then there's just a development site around it. And there are ways around that to make sure that, the ducts are lined up properly to prevent that from happening. In that case, unfortunately, something happened where that didn't happen, but there are ways under the Planning Act for us to ensure that things work properly and that you don't end up with buildings that can't be used in the future because they've been altered so much, or a portion of it has been removed or something like that. So we haven't had a lot of applications like that in St. Catharines for the most part. Gord's Place might be one of them. I don't know if that one, what kind of process that went through, but I think we would probably if we ever had a project like that, we would make sure that through securities or through the planning process that we make sure that we don't have orphaned buildings or anything like that might be problematic in the future.
That particular project sticks out because the building right on the corner has got a for sale sign on it. So I don't see this project going through anytime soon, if ever. And the buildings are down; they're gone. So we've lost something with someone's pie in the sky. So it's unfortunate.
Well, and I think
I'm just wondering if you can build any teeth into this, where they can't take the building down, even though it's blessed to be taken down, unless they're going to actually continue with the project.
Yeah, once there's a demolition permit granted, you're kind of you can't do much about it after that point. They can take it down. So, but in that case, if the building was listed, they would have had to get council approval to demolish. So at that point, they would have got a demolition permit. I don't know. I don't know that project well enough. It was before I was here, so I don't know if they did get that. And then if most developments, what you want to do is you want to make sure that designation is in place, right, as part of it. And so the designation prevents some of that work from happening because they won't be able to do any alterations or get permits until they're far enough along. So that's one of the ways that we do that.
Another building that I was just thinking about that, it's a real shame. They were so quick to demolish it and nothing's ever happened with that site. Was the old red brick Emmett family farmhouse out by Victoria Lawn. I mean, that was demolished, what, about 3 years ago, something like that? And nothing's ever been done with the site. And it was a perfectly good, beautiful mid-19th century farmhouse.
Yeah, that one was an issue with. Unfortunately, there were properties in the city that just weren't listed and weren't on our inventory. So that property wasn't listed at the time. And so, if somebody comes in with an application and they have plans for the property and it's not on our list, we're stuck, right? That's where the listing really helped us. That's where it's going to be problematic after this year when we lose all these properties from our heritage register. We're going to run into that issue a lot more where people are going to come in, for certain sites or certain properties, and they're going to have different ideas for the property, and we're not going to be able to do anything about it because they'll be able to get a demolition permit immediately. So that's unfortunately that's what we've known all along with Bill 23, and it's just an unfortunate situation, but we'll have to try our best to anticipate some of these where we can.
But even so, the building's gone and it's never going to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, do you have any other miscellaneous? Oh, I don't know whose hand was up first. Lorraine?
No. I wasn't first, but I was going to say the same as that building, that house, the 1800s house on Niagara Street that was demolished.
Across from you?
Across from me, yeah.
Yeah, the cookhouse, yeah.
Yeah, which is another sad story.
No. Andrew?
Just by way of the demolition applications, we certainly have had an ample number of demolition applications, and the presentation starts with a well illustrated explanation of how beautiful the replacement property is going to be. And I think we should just not entertain that. There's no place for it in the discussion. That shouldn't be we shouldn't even be talking about it until the demolition is considered. And if the demolition is approved, then let's start that conversation. But it's always a warning sign to me when you see on the agenda demolition application and someone comes in with these beautiful concept drawings. It's like, wait a minute, we're way, the cart's not just ahead of the horse, it's a few miles down the road, and so that's something to watch out for sure. And the other hard one is the due diligence question. People have a responsibility to do due diligence when they build a building. At the same time, we've had cases where people have, acted in good faith and got themselves in difficult position, and it's hard not to be compassionate with those people. At the same time, we've also heard our share of disingenuous "woe is me" stories about, oh, it's going to be so expensive to fix this thing. I remember one particular case, one of the buildings in the cottage district in Port Dalhousie, where they were talking about, oh, it's not salvageable and there's all this damage. And I said, well, were you in the Heritage District? Yes. So did you do an inspection? No. Did you do it? I mean, they didn't even do an inspection, and they were, out of town real estate developers. And clearly the intent to demolish was there from the beginning, and they built the case that they thought would be successful. And sometimes it's transparent, sometimes it's not, but I just think that's the tricky one for me is, compassion versus guidelines is a hard one sometimes. But when you're getting a song and dance, you gotta, that's when you gotta be aware.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in just for a sec. So when an applicant does come in with an application for demolition, and luckily that doesn't happen too often. We've only dealt with a handful, I think, since I've been here. But well, I'll let them know that the demolition comes first, right? Like they have to get that approval before they can show their plans for what would come next. They obviously, when they're before the committee and they're making their proposal or they're making their case, they're welcome to show what their plans are. It doesn't mean that it will sway the committee or that the committee has to consider those. And I think this committee has done a good job of kind of separating that in the past on applications. So it I don't think the application that was before us today, the 33 Bayview, even when they came in saying, we need to demolish because there's rotting wood and everything like that. I think that was the consideration that everybody had to think about. It wasn't what the next building would look like. I think what happened with the next building, what it would look like was trying to make something good out of a bad situation. And so I think it's unfortunate that they weren't able to come to, carry forward with those plans, but I think the plans that they got approved today are fitting with the guidelines, and it's a house that on any site I think people would be happy with. So I think it ends up being making as good of a situation as it can. But I do think this committee's done a good job in the past of separating the demolition application from whatever new will be built there.
Rachel?
I was just going to say that maybe this is just me as a newer committee member with regards to demolition, but I do find sometimes the guidelines quite challenging. Like as someone who doesn't really, is quite new, doesn't always know what rules to follow in that, I do turn to the guidelines quite a bit. And there's really not a lot when it comes to demolition. I think it's just like, we need to vote on the structural integrity. And it's just based on photos and testimonials from the applicants, and there's not really clear guidance around that. So I find it, we obviously don't want to make the call. I think most of us feel pretty strongly against demolition, and sometimes I feel like we don't have the right guardrails in place to even make that decision from the guidelines alone. I don't have a good answer or solution to that, but I just wanted to voice that I have found that challenging in the past.
Yeah, I think if a property is a contributing property and it's a Part 5 property, it's one of those properties that like it's intended to be retained, right? Like that's kind of what matters the most. And I think in terms of condition, and there's always going to be kind of situations that happen like the owner we had today for 33 Bayview, who they tried their best to see if they could work with what they had. It wasn't going to work for them because of all the moisture damage and mold damage and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this committee really has to be concerned about the cultural heritage value. And to me, it's up to council to determine whether or not some of those issues that are kind of outside of the cultural heritage value merit the demolition. So, things like, is the house in a condition that can be salvaged, stuff like that. That's a council decision, in my opinion. I think this committee largely, you can chime in on those things, but I think this committee, your job is to chime in on the cultural heritage value and protecting that. So I definitely understand, Rachel. I think the other part is that these heritage guidelines, especially for Port Dalhousie, are 25 years old. And so, the issues that have come up since then, I don't think were necessarily anticipated. And Port Dalhousie is a challenging area because the quality of the houses and their condition and whatnot, they vary greatly from house to house, and so it's a challenging district to, and I think also just the guidelines in general are challenging to work with because what was anticipated 25 years ago hasn't always come to fruition, right? So we've had a few applications regarding like ADU units, right, like additional dwelling units, and nobody could have foreseen that 25 years ago, but we've had to kind of make do with what we have, right? So and even today, the dormer discussion, right? Like the guidelines do say that dormers should be on the side or the rear, but we know that dormers are everywhere in Port Dalhousie. Like it's very hard to tell a new homeowner, like, sorry, you can't put a dormer on the front, and they look at their neighbor and they say, well, they have one. And so it's one of those things where at some point we will probably have to relook at these guidelines and figure out, are these working? Where are they working? What could be changed? And I think that's something that hopefully we can tackle down the road. So yeah.
And I know we've had a couple of built heritage specialists who've come in to make presentations to the Heritage Committee through the years. where they've argued till they're blue in the face that, oh, this building is in such terrible condition, it has to come down, it has to come down. And yet, we've had actual physical tours of the interior of the building, and you can tell that the building it was still solid. And yet they were still able to, sway council and sway the rest of the committee that, yes, the building has to come down. I'm thinking about was 155 Ontario. That was the old Italianate house that was right beside the old Hotel Dieu. Beautiful house, nice and solid, and yet this heritage professional came in and said, no, no, it's just about ready to fall apart. And he managed to convince everybody about that. And the same with the interior of that one house on Yates Street, that one Taylor and Bate house. They ended up taking all the interior, original features out of the house. I mean, that really hurt.
Well, that was a tough one because the interior was really sort of outside of our purview, but that one was what sucked. Watching that house sit on the market month after month for a few years made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. But
So I think
still, they should have been a bit more sympathetic to the Victorian interior of that house because it was all
without a
original.
doubt. Well, we told them that anyone who's going to be interested in a heritage house like that is going to appreciate that interior, that they were subverting their own best purchasing audience by removing it. But I think what did they say? They said, "Well, it doesn't match our design aesthetic."
That's right.
So we're going to rip it out.
Yeah. Anyway, if that's it for the miscellaneous items for now, we don't have any subcommittee updates, at least for this month.
No, the only thing I was going to mention is so we sent out letters during the summer to all the listed property owners in the city just to let them know about the upcoming deadline at the end of the year, and also to let them know about the tax rebate program, and that the pilot project may be starting in the new year pending budget approval in the fall. And so we've had a few owners reach out and say, like, kind of kick the tires and want to know what is required of them if they want to have it designated. Nobody has fully said, yes, I want to be designated yet, but I'm having emails and conversations and whatnot with them. So I'm hoping in the very near future we'll be able to do that. We had one property owner who wasn't listed who was on Brian's walking tour of Queen Street. And he actually reached out to Adrian and said, how can I be designated? Because he saw the houses on Queen Street and he thought, my house is just as good as these. And so he was really curious about it. And I've reached out to him just to clarify because he had some questions about insurance, which a lot of people do. And so I answered his email about that, but he didn't get back to me. So I followed up with him to find out if he'd like to continue. But that might be a property that wasn't on our radar at all. It wasn't listed or anything like that, and that might end up being designated by the end of the year. So that's kind of nice. But I'll let everybody know once I hear more from different owners, and hopefully we'll have a few properties we can target before the end of the year.
Sounds good. I don't think we have any items of correspondence today. So I guess the next thing is the date of our next meeting, September the 24th at 2:30. Same bat time, same bat station. So
Brian, before you jump, the other thing that I'll mention, so Robert was asking me before about, with the election coming up and this group meeting, we'll continue to meet throughout the election and, into probably the new year, because this group does have kind of a legislative duty, because we're dealing with heritage permits. And then I think sometime in the fall or after the election, there will be a call for applications for to renew the committee. So if you're interested in being on the committee again next year, next term, and I hope all of you are, but essentially you'll be able to apply at that point, and we'll renew the committee essentially probably in the February or so, January, February, March. I believe that's when everything will fall into place. But fully expect that this group will continue to meet for the next 3 or 4 months until then.
Right. Okay. I shall be entering probably my third decade on the committee by the time I finish. Seems like yesterday that I started. And Kevin Blazowski said, "Oh, the time will go by fast. You won't notice it." And it's true. It has gone by quickly. Anyway, so the next meeting, September the 24th. So I guess we need a motion to terminate the festivities for today. Mark, thank you.
Timing is everything.
Exactly. Now, and of course, all in favor? Done. Thank you, folks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Kate, for
Thanks,
sticking
everyone.
around. You didn't have to stick around, but
Well, it was interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Kay.
Keep up the good